The sun is shining at Silverstone as we get set for the first part of qualifying for this second race in the Blancpain GT Series Endurance Cup. It's the full Grand Prix circuit in use this weekend. Silverstone has been part of the Blancpain GT Series Endurance calendar right from the very first season of what was then the Blancpain Endurance Series. It was at the end of the year, but now it has settled in this traditional May date. We've had dry races here, we've had wet races here, but today there's barely a cloud in the sky. We had a bit of rain affecting pre-qualifying yesterday afternoon, but it looks good for qualifying, which will be getting underway with Q1 in about 3 or 4 minutes time, and it will last for 15 minutes. 48 cars in the entry. Driver changes going on even up to this morning, with Philippe Eng being parachuted into the number 9 BMW to replace a rather under the weather Philippe Steveni. It'll be interesting to see how he gets on with no track time from yesterday. David Addison and John Watson trackside, looking forward, John, to yet another excellent race here at Silverstone.
Magnificent. It is absolutely stunning. I mean, it could be the middle of July, but it is beautiful. And after 3 days of running, of which 2 were effectively official tests for the Blancpain competitors, then we had 2 practice sessions yesterday. Weather interfered, certainly at the end of the second one. That very sudden squall came in, track got wet, cars flew off the track. But now, finally, this is what's going to count. 3 sessions, 3 qualifying phases, combine the times, and that will be your grid position. As ever, well, look, Jules Gounon, he went out very much at the end of that session yesterday on a wet track, tippy-toed his way around. There'll be no tippy-toeing from Jules Gounon, Stephen Kane, or for Jordan Pepper.
Absolutely. So we're looking forward to what's going to be a good session, that's for sure. And the championship, having been to Monza, comes to Silverstone. Full Grand Prix circuit with the heritage pits being used. So turn 1 is Copse, then that fabulous Beckett's S is onto the Hanger Straight, John.
Yeah, I mean, what can you say? It's one of the great racetracks of the world. And thank goodness we've got a racetrack that's got high-speed corners that challenge. Certainly in a GT3 car, the levels of downforce are high, but not compared to that of maybe a Grand Prix car. Nevertheless, Copse, Beckett, Stowe, Abbey, I mean, wherever you look, it is a challenge for the drivers, and the drivers love these corners.
So Jordan Pepper, you saw a few moments ago in 107. Jim Pla will go out first in the 87 Mercedes that he shares with Mauro Ricci and Jean-Luc Bobelic. That's one of the Pro-Am cars. Remember, there's the overall fight to look for, plus the Silver Cup for the young guns, Pro-Am, and the Am Cup as well. So this monster entry set to pour out onto the circuit, and only 15 minutes does not give you a huge amount of time, especially with all the traffic.
The thing is, if you give somebody a mile, they'll take a mile. If you give them a yard, they'll do it in a yard. You've got 15 minutes to get the job done. Amazing just how drivers respond to that restricted amount of time. There will be a benchmark time, which is going to be the time that everybody will be thinking of trying to either match, or certainly better. It's going to be a 1:59.6, which was set yesterday by Mirko Bortolotti in this very car here, the Lamborghini Mirko Bortolotti, quickest of all. Drivers are saying this track is not giving up the kind of speeds that we saw 1 year ago. Now, clearly some of the cars' drivers will be a lot quicker than they were yesterday afternoon, but whether they're going to get down to the 156s, which was where we qualified 1 year ago, is questionable.
Yeah, drivers saying that the track felt different, felt slower. Certainly was yesterday. That's the Orange One FFF Racing Team fleet of Lamborghinis all lined up ready to go, with Andrea Caldarelli going first in 563, the car that he shares with Dennis Lind and Marco Mappelli. So, dare we put you on the spot for a prediction for pole position, or is it just a case of find the entry and then stick a pin in it, John?
As you've definitely alluded to, traffic, 15 minutes per session, 3 drivers across each car, with the exception of 1 or 2 where there's only 2 drivers. So, I mean, I could turn around and say it's going to be the number 4 Black Fulcrum Mercedes, for example. That's a car which is getting better and better. 63 Lamborghini. Could be a Bentley, centenary year for Bentley. Wouldn't that be a wonderful occasion for Bentley to start from pole position for this afternoon's 3-hour race? So any number of about 20 car driver pairings could easily end up, look, one of those cars could be the 98 or the 99 Row Racing Porsche.
Factory drivers across 2 cars, and Rover splitting its time between Porsche in Blancpain GT, BMW in the VLN, so it's a monster programme the squad has got. But, I mean, that is a driver lineup second to none, lapped for nothing. 519 will go out first with the British driver Phil Keane. The session is live. You saw the green flag waved a moment ago at pit out, and on the graphic there, that green underline means that the session is live. Some biding their time. You can go out first with the first car in clear track space, or go out a bit later, try and let everybody go. But actually, this is a very relaxed start to the session. Look, not that many cars are on track, and those that aren't exactly storming along.
I imagine that everybody who thinks they've got a shot at pole position are going to hang back and let the early runners go out and effectively re-clean the track, because overnight the track settles down again, it changes. So the track will have to come back to those drivers and teams that think they've got a chance for a pole position. So they're going to go out maybe, well, there we see the 74 Mercedes, that's not likely to be a pole challenging car, but the 88 Mercedes, the 4 Mercedes, the Audis of Dries van Thor, number 2, Lamborghini, Bentley, wherever you want to look, they're going to just take, and this car, the 72 Ferrari, that's a car that is almost overdue a win.
Absolutely right. And again, it lacks a little in the driver lineup. So 72, when it goes out, we'll have Miguel Molina at the wheel. We've seen him top times of sessions in the past. Aston Martin winning brand here last year. Come back to the point you made yesterday. Audi, for all its success in Blancpain GT, be it endurance races or sprint races, has never had a win at Silverstone. And that is a car, the sole Honda on the grid, that's creating a lot of attention, especially here, because it's the British team, the RJN bit, being Bob Neville's squad of this Jensen Team Rocket squad operating the car. So it's got Jensen Button's involvement. It's got the Brawn livery as a tribute to Jensen's 2009 World Championship success, and the American driver Matt McMurray is behind the wheel.
Yeah, Silver Cup competitor, so they're not looking necessarily for overall victory, and probably would be unlikely to win overall anyway. But the Silver Cup, very competitive, and some outstanding cars. In fact, we had a Silver Cup car in the sprint event last weekend at Brands Hatch on pole position.
So this is the Hanger Straight, at the Stowe end of which is Andrea Bertolini's Ferrari, the one that he shares with Nick Homerson and Louis Mackey. It was an absolute best, although it's very early in the session, for Matt McMurray. It just looks good, that car, doesn't it?
Everything about the Honda is just, it's pleasing on the eye. It's got a V6 engine in it. I think the only other brand that's got a 6-cylinder engine is the Porsche. So it's got a different exhaust note, and you can actually hear these engines. They're not muted. That is an aspirated engine, not turbocharged.
So past the wing, coming out of club corner, Matt McMurray. It's a long middle sector, and it has the Vale. It's got this fast section here, but it's also got the tight and twiddly bits that he's about to come up to, namely Village and the Loop, and then through Aintree. So it's an interesting sector. It's got fast and slow sections.
Yeah, coming into Village, you've got a choice of staying tight and hugging, as you're seeing McMurray do in the Honda, get over to the right-hand side to make the Loop, get the ultimate racing line, let's say. But people do mix and match, and it's a part of the racetrack where overtaking does take place. But the problem is, if you overtake in the middle of between Village and Loop, you can compromise your exit and then get nailed as you come through Aintree down onto the Wellington Straight, down into Brooklands, another place where overtaking is possible.
So 2 absolute bests. This will be the target time, therefore, set by Matt McMurray. He's actually done okay for traffic. He's got them all stacked up behind him, but he's got precious little in front. In fact, the car that he will come across first will be Dries van Thor, but Matt McMurray will break the beam and do the first proper flying lap of the session as a 2 minutes 3.851. 2 minutes 3.851, then ahead of Pierre Arret in the AM Cup Ferrari. But all of this is going to shuffle around not only in Q1, but of course because you're taking the combined average of the 3 drivers across the cars right to the very end of the third part of qualifying.
But look, there's the problem. Matt McMurray is now in the middle of a group of cars that are on their first out lap or on their first flying lap. He's on to his second flying lap, and that's already compromised. So he's got little option but to bail out, just give himself some track space and try and find a clearer bit of the racetrack. But now that the track is getting more busy, Aston Martin's out as well, SRO Motorsport, a car that, I mean, stealth, I mean, that looks, well, I keep telling it looks fantastic. Porsche, one of the Rover Racing Porsches, backing out again, looking for that almost impossible to find clear track to give yourself one clear lap, to have your one shot at trying to do the best you can in your qualifying segment.
Out of Stowe goes number 19 then, that being the car that has got, for the first part of qualifying, Arno Santamarto behind the wheel. That's the other Grassa Racing Team car. It runs in the Silver Cup. Santamato, Gerhard Ferraza and Lucas Maron. Lucas Ayat and Maron, to give him his full name, and they are yet to do a time. But this is the car that's kind of been overlooked amongst the Lamborghini fleet because of its Silver Cup lineup. But quick drivers nonetheless. Ferraza we've seen doing great things in Lamborghini Super Trofeo in the past and in domestic GT.
Well, we've just suddenly got a sub 122nd lap from the FFF Racing Lamborghini. That's now been superseded by the 63 Lamborghini. So Mirko Bortolotti has gone and done a 1:59.1, which is by half a second the quickest lap of certainly the 2 official days of running here, and also quicker than we had on the 2 private test days. So pace is picking up. Mirko Bortolotti right on it right now.
Santamato through traffic, 8.5 minutes on the clock. He gets past 87. That's the Mercedes of Jim Clark. And Brands Hatch a week ago for the 1R races was perfect Mercedes territory, a win apiece for Black Falcon and Aka ASP. Right, Santamato comes up towards the timing line and he does a 2 minutes 1.108. So that puts him 6th fastest for the moment as the Grata Racing team looks on.
Yeah, Dries van Thor in the number 2 Audi, he's gone 2nd quickest, half a second slower than the 63 Lamborghini, which is a bunch of time at that end of the grid for sure. But time beginning 59.114 is the time for the 63 Lamborghini.
Right, 107 Bentley you're looking at. This is yet to do a lap time, but it's about to offer up one. Jordan Pepper at the wheel. He was very good in the free practice and pre-qualifying sessions yesterday. The South African in the 107 Bentley. Then he's got 2 personal bests, as you would expect on his first flying lap. He comes up towards the timing line now, goes 6th fastest, then on the 107, 6th quickest, 2 minutes 0402.
So a lot of Lamborghinis, 4 Lamborghinis in the top 5. Only the 2nd place Audi of Dries van Thor. Then you've got a Bentley in 6th place and Audi. So Audis didn't really feature, David, an awful lot from what we were watching yesterday. All of a sudden, they're back at the sharp end of the grid where we expect them to be. Dries van Thor, fastest overall in that first sector. 3/10 down in the middle sector. That's the very long sector. So he is looking to find half a second plus to get onto level terms with the 63 Lamborghini. Unlikely, and this is just a stellar final sector in this lap to get closer possibly, but not quick enough to overtake.
Now the Audis have had a VOP change overnight, so they're a bit lighter coming into today, and it's clearly showing because Dries van Thor is looking very pacey indeed. He goes 2nd fastest there on a 1:59.668. So Dries van Thor 2nd quickest, and that means it's half a second now between Bortolotti and Van Thor.
Yeah, I mean, there was a very fractional improvement on his previous best lap. On board with the Aston Max. Again, stuck behind one of the 2 Rover Racing Porsches. It's looking for its clear lap. The Aston will be compromised on the exit of Luffield, not done intentionally, but it's just a function of a very busy racetrack and where do you find space. So, not a great run for, and off whereabouts on the track. Red flag as well, Sanchez, Ricardo Sanchez.
Turn 5, so it's Beckett's, isn't it? Final part of Beckett's.
We've seen cars off there, not at that part of the track. That's on the outs. Waiting for the camera to open up a little bit more to get a view of it. So the clock has stopped. Unlike in the practice sessions yesterday, the clock continued on. So, there he goes. Exactly what we saw yesterday from the number 9, the Butson Junior BMW. And clearly it's imperative to get that car out of the way as quickly as possible. He almost made it onto the grass. He could have, if he'd gotten onto the grass, he could have got himself back onto the racetrack.
So Ricardo Sanchez off, red flag.
It's coming through the first part of that Beckett's complex. Very quick entry. If the back end gets away, you're going to go a long way and you've no chance of getting the recovery. Consequently, he goes through the sand trap. As I say, he almost made it onto the grass. He could have made his way back onto the circuit if he'd managed to.
Yeah. And that comes to that irritating part of the session, 6 minutes to go. So you've only just really got into a rhythm. And by the time you go back out and you've done an out lap, there's what, 2 flying laps possible for you, if that?
Yeah, I mean, I think what we've seen with Bortolotti, get in, get out early, get the time done. He's got that provisional fastest time. And we've got 6 minutes remaining. So that means everybody's got to go out and do an out lap, which is going to be a minimum of 2 minutes, maybe a bit longer. And then they might, if they're lucky, get a further 2 flying laps, if they're lucky. And of course that depends where they are in conjunction with all the other traffic. So Bortolotti, no one really stuck his thumbs up and said, I'm a happy guy because half a second quicker than the second place Audi. That gives me a very comfortable situation.
Now, you've just seen Bortolotti giving way to Christian Engelhardt, so they are taking this opportunity to do the driver change, and the best lap time of number 10 is cancelled because of causing the red flag. So Sanchez gets this sort of double whammy. He's in the gravel, and the best lap time that he's done will be taken away, and therefore the car drops even further, assuming he'd actually got a proper lap time in, because he doesn't feature yet in the top 35 out of the 48 times that we've had available. So Sanchez is going to be way back at the end of Q1, and it's down to the co-drivers then to try and haul the car up on that combined average.
It's a harsh penalty, but everything's been held up. Everybody else has been penalised. So those that were on a flying lap on a new set of tyres, they've lost that benefit. So one might say it is a fair penalty for causing this interruption.
Yeah, it's becoming more common. It happens in some single-seater championships. It happens here. It happens in the British Touring Car Championship as well. So if you are the cause of that stoppage and you've disrupted everyone's session, you pay a penalty for it. It also is perhaps there to try and persuade people to drive with a bit more caution and stay on the road.
Andrea Caldarelli, 563, down in 15th position. So that will not be pleasing to Andrea Caldarelli, who, alongside driving the car, is involved in he's not the manager per se, but he is a part of the management structure within this new Orange 1 FFF racing team Lamborghini.
Yeah, it's a bit like Michael Bartels was all those years ago. He drives and he's also involved in the operation of the team.
But the difference is he was German. He is German. Organised. Leave it there.
Move on.
Race winner from Monza.
Yeah. Now, where's that at the moment? It's been anonymous, isn't it? 54. It's a long way down.
And those, I'm assuming those are the magnesium racing wheels that Porsche. Yeah, those are the magnesium. They're not gold, are they? There's a gold option.
Is there? So this car is currently yet to do a time, in fact.
Does that look great? 60-odd-year-old fundamental design on change. Just, well, what it is what Germany is excellent at, is development over design.
Yeah.
You take a concept that fundamentally is, you stick the engine out behind the gearbox, away in the fresh air, and you then engineer it to such a degree that the car becomes an outstanding road car. Magic coming in this morning. I came in an engine hanging out the rear. Unbelievable modern technology, what Porsche's doing. I'll not tell you more. Well,
I assume it was at a nice, sedate pace.
It was. Yeah. It was.
Yeah, a happy 100 all the way, was it, John?
Oh, a bit more.
Well, that car that won at Monza is going to have to really go some now in the remaining 6 minutes, because make that 4 minutes, really. Once you've taken the outlap out, you're going to restart on a short notice, so it'll be a very quick turnaround as soon as the Audi is back in. It's driving back, hopefully not shedding too much gravel along the road, but any moment the car will be back in, and so Alain Adon, the race director, will give the call, and everyone will go scrambling out.
So it is a real frustration, because it is that 6 minute remaining. Now the track is green, so you're going to get out at the earliest opportunity, and there will be a mad rush to get down to the end of the pit lane, to get onto the track at the earliest chance, to make sure that you get those 2 flying laps in. And of course it's going to be congestion central by the time the end of what is the beginning of the pit lane. You can see the queue of cars making their way down. Some are not going back out. The 63 Lamborghini, we assume, isn't going back out because Mirko Bortolotti stepped out of that car. Actually, some cars are actually coming back into the pit lane. How that happened is interesting. There's the 108 Bentley that was having a lot of work carried out on it yesterday, and they just about got it completed in time to go out and get a couple of laps in. So busy circuit, and just to find your space to be able to get that 1 lap and then out lap, well, 6-8 cars all coming down, 88 moving around, getting some tire pressure, the 90 behind it. Get another group of 5-6 cars. Simon Gachet, Christopher Hauser, Stefan Palette, another strong Santa-Lock Racing entry. Probably not going to be, I would say, a challenger right now for what would be pole position, but a strong grid position. If you can get your car into the first 6 rows of the grid, when the lights go green, then you have a chance of getting away with the lead group, and that then makes such a difference. to what you can do with your strategy once the race is underway.
So everybody pouring back out onto the circuit. Some teams electing to use this as extra time to get ready for Q2.
Already it's under 4.5 minutes, and they're still streaming out of the pit lane.
And again, they're going to find traffic, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, everybody has subsequently been compromised by that red flag intervention. So those that thought we'll hang back and wait for the track to come to us, maybe find a bit of a clearer track, because others that have gone early will have completed their run. Now they're sort of on the back foot, as is here the 88 car that is always in contention. Raffaele Marcello in the ASP Mercedes-Benz.
And that's not done a proper lap time yet either. Number 4 Mercedes booms past the pits, and that's for the purposes of this first session is Maro Engel. Right, let's stay with the Mercedes down to Copse.
And make your apex, good apex from Marcello, let the car run out, float over the curbing and the exit, then come and bring it back over to the right-hand side to get the entry. This is into Maggots, then now you're into Beckett's. The very quick right, the slightly slower left, keep the car to the left as much as possible, then back again to the right. From here, you want to get the car as straight as possible, but you've still got to finish the corner. Now, through Maggots down, or through Chapel down, hanger straight, up to 200 and just under 60 kilometers per hour. Onto the brakes, down 2 gears, into Stowe, get the nose in, release the car, let it just float out to the exit of the corner, then back over to the right-hand side. Runs a bit of curb, not a problem as long as all 4 wheels are not over that curb and onto the green, but slow into Vale. Don't try and overdrive it, because it's more important to get the 2-part of club absolutely correct, particularly the second part, because that's going to dictate the speed as you come on to what is the grid for the Grand Prix. Then the run down into Abbey, and remember in Abbey there's that little bump. Well, actually it's bigger than a little bump. But Marcello, I mean, he's working hard on the steering. I mean, you can see he's not actually having what you might describe as the easiest run in this first attempt at getting a qualifying lap in. So into the loop, ponderous and slow. You just got to be patient about it. Then run the curb and almost diagonally come across the track to take Aintree.
Red flag, another red flag. And that means he will not get a time in.
Well, you're not going to get a time in with 2 minutes left, and it's 66.
It's a Beckett's again, Clement Schmidt.
So it's really, this is going to absolutely turn the grid on its head.
Look at that.
And he's bedded it well and truly bedded. So that's well and truly embedded into the gravel. And again, it's this entry into Beckett's as you come through Maggots, the transition to the right. And if you just carry too much speed, or your tire temperature is not up to the operating temperature, and you lose grip, then that's it. You're going to be a passenger, and that's happened twice. We've seen it with 2 Audis this morning. Not a reflection on the car, more a reflection on drivers not getting the car and tires up to the optimum temperatures before they really lean on it.
So 2 minutes and 18 seconds is effectively an outlap.
Absolutely, and that's it. I mean, you might as well just stop the session, other than you let it run. If somebody might want to go out and check something,
well, yeah,
which is they're fully entitled to do, but they're not going to get a flying lap.
If you're the first car out, they've got 2 minutes and 18 seconds, and a gun lap is a 1:59. You could, the first 2 or 3 out could just sneak a lap, couldn't they?
They could do, but if those first 2 or 3, maybe let's say, are not pro cars and they're not hard on it, I don't know. If you get maybe the 107 Bentley at the front of the pit lane, you can guarantee that that's going to be a quick car that might just sneak across the line before the flag comes out.
But yes, if it's a slower car, or you're embedded in the pack, you're not going to get through. Absolutely right.
That's the concern.
Just about worth running.
But you know, it's what a nightmare for the timing and scoring, because some teams are looking down to 35th place. The number 10 Audi 205. That was Ricardo Sanchez. That time we think is going to be, I don't know, that was his second best lap or his first best lap, which has been disallowed. So 66 is also going to lose its best lap.
It'll tumble down accordingly.
Yeah, it's one of the shorts.
I mean, we're talking about losing your best time for causing the red flag. It's all rather presupposing you'd done another lap time, because in many cases that was their first effort. So you got nothing in the bank.
I mean,
everybody pouring down the pit lane. So number 4 Mercedes, number 88 8 Mercedes, 54 Monza-winning Porsche, yet to do a lap time.
I mean, it is disaster. And I use the word cautiously. It is a disaster for Black Falcon, for ASP, and for the Dynamic Motorsport Porsche, that they have not. I mean, probably the Dynamic Motorsport Porsche wasn't going to be a challenger for pole position. We know that that car over 3 hours is a winning car, but maybe in terms of sheer single lap out-and-out performance, it was going to be the number 4 or the number 88 Mercedes-Benz. And if they haven't recorded a meaningful time, that's effectively they're not their race compromised, but certainly it's qualifying totally compromised.
So the driver changes are happening. Most teams, I think, are electing to bail on this. The session will not be resumed. That's now been confirmed by the race director.
I think that's common sense. Let's move on, because there's no guarantee that somebody on a night lap, pushing it too hard, cool tires, low pressure, wouldn't do the same thing again.
So we get ready for Q2. Driver changes happen. I know we're looking at Bentley, but just let me finish the point about Audi. I was mentioning earlier that they've had a BOP change. The Audis are 10 kilos lighter coming into today. So that's why, in part, the cars are a little bit more competitive. They also seem to swap ends. 2 red flags, both caused by Audis.
Yeah, I mean, the nature of the Audi is it's a little bit more front-endy than some of the other, particularly we keep referring to them as mid-front engine cars. Aston, Bentley, Mercedes, the Lexus likewise, but again, it's in its own category. It's not battling for overall victory. So those cars seem to suit the high-speed curves, but principally the very high-speed change of directions. But up here, this part of the circuit, second sequence of corners on the circuit up at Beckett's.
Just looking at some of the highlights of Q1. The first incident, putting off the road Ricardo Sanchez. The second being for Clemens Schmidt, and that means 2 red flags, and ultimately the session not being restarted. Although 54 Porsche hasn't yet done a flying lap, its speed under the red flag is being reported to the stewards.
Well, you can't blame them for wanting to get back into the pit, but obviously you've got to be absolutely cautious. It is a serious no-no to exceed the mandatory pace that you're required to return to the pits at.
So Marco Bortolotti is currently the fastest, 1 minute 59.114. That means the gap at the moment is half a second over Dries Vanthoor. Third, out of nowhere, Fabrizio Crestani. Phil Keane is a good 4th. Nico Bastian, 5th. And then it is James Poole, 6th quickest ahead of Miguel Molina. Jim Pla, 8th. Jordan Pepper, 9th. And Stein Schockhorst rounding out the top 10.
I mean, just the number of silver graded cars in that top 10.
We'll go through the lot. For me, the fascination is going to be the last slide, and to see who has yet to do a lap time, and therefore who is in strife at the moment, because there are some out of sequence, as in well up the order. There are many out of sequence a long way down the order. You go down to 30th, for example. Nick Homerson's spare AF Corsa Ferrari, the red and white, not black and white this weekend, because the black and white one's still being rebuilt from a week ago at Brands Hatch, where it got mugged. But look at this. Black Falcon number 4, no time. Number 6, no time. The Straka Mercedes, no time. The Dynamic Porsche, no time. Garage 59's Pro entry, no time. Attempto, no time, and in the gravel, and has lost its so-called best lap from this session anyway. 88 has not done a lap time, and nor has 98 from Rover Racing. That means the pressure's on for Q2.
I mean, all I can think is the poor computer that's going to have to work out who will start on pole and what the rest of the field is going to be. Matt Campbell, likewise, in the second of the Rover Racing Porsche, no time. I mean, disaster is an overused word, but for these teams, it's going to be a major recalculation as to how they're going to deal with all this.
So, not surprisingly, the teams that have had these lap times lost are not terribly keen to talk. The qualifying session is brief enough, never mind people bidding it and then losing your best lap time. So Christian Engelhardt will now get on board 63.
Yeah, it goes back to what we talked about. We saw a lot of the lesser likely pole sitters to go out early because they knew that the front runners are going to wait until the track has got that little bit cleaner after maybe 5 minutes or 10 minutes. But they've paid the penalty. They've been caught out. And there's the people that went out at the very beginning, including the 63 Lamborghini, that got all the advantages and now are sitting happy. I mean, Grasser Racing in particular, but also WRT with Dries Vanthoor. 2 of the potential race-winning teams have locked out in the first Q session that front row of the grid. They are going to be looking very happy indeed, I would say.
Now, bear in mind that the way that the qualifying average works out is that you have the bulk of the entry with 3 drivers. There are 1 or 2 with only 2 drivers. And those 2 driver entries always start behind the 3 driver entries. Now, what happens if you've got a 3 driver entry, but you only set a time in 2 sessions? The answer is you go and join the 2 driver entries. So those cars we've just looked at without a time are going to have to start behind all the cars that get 3 times. So straight away, they're on the back foot. It doesn't matter what happens now. They're only fighting for pole, if you like, in Class B, in the second part of the grid.
I mean, I would sum that by saying predictability. Well, where's the predictability in this qualifying session? It's going to mean we're going to have a very, very exciting first 1 hour, this 3-hour race this afternoon, as those that have lost out in this qualifying session are trying to make their way through. And I say they will have to reassess, readjust what their strategies are going to be, where they will have to think about what they want to do. And again, there's no reason to believe there won't be more circumstances in the race proper. You might even have another red flag in the race proper. Hopefully not, but certainly we will certainly have full course yellows and certainly have safety cars.
Well, it's going to be a great grid. It's going to be an excellent race. The only thing that you can predict in the Blancpain GT series is unpredictability. So Q2 is underway, and the drivers now will pour out onto the circuit, and that second wave of cars, Mercedes, Porsche in and amongst them, well worth watching. The Ardent operated R Motorsport Aston Martin is good to go, number 62. But for the purposes of this part of qualifying, Matt Parry will drive. 76 goes out as well, that being now Jake Dennis, winner here last year.
Yeah, Jake, pretty exciting. I mean, Matt Parry.
Sorry, a blue cloud of smoke. He's gone straight on at the end of the straight.
Yes, I saw that. It's one of the Audis. He's had an idea.
Number 10, isn't it? That was the one that was in the gravel to begin with when Sanchez dropped
I mean, that was a major lock-up coming down into Stowe.
It's Charles Weirtz at the wheel of it, who is the son of Yves, who is Vincent Voss's business partner at WRT. And Charles Weirtz we saw in Bahrain in the Nations Cup last year. He's got away with that, but a very weird moment.
Well, he's gotten away with it in that he didn't go off track, but what he's probably got now are flat-spotted front tyres. So again, everybody just waiting. So the 99 Rover Porsche threading its way through. The lesson learned is don't wait to midway through the session. Get out and do a time now, because that's going to have a bearing. And this car was one of the cars that didn't get a solid time in.
Now this session is going to be extended by 10 seconds because there was a delay between the call being given to go green and the marshal turning the light to green at the end of the pit lane. So it's been extended by 10 seconds, incidentally. Interesting.
That's the second little moment we had, a major one yesterday.
Yeah.
That's the second one, so what the problem is with the communications, both Porsche, even the back end of the Porsche coming through the exit of Beckett, stepping out. Track is cool, ambient is warming up, but it's still not anywhere near what we might expect, even at this time of year. So Dennis Olsen, 36.1.
Absolute best.
Another goes. Ferrari, 72.
It is, isn't it? The SMP racing car coming out of Stowe Corner, down through Vale. Big moment for Mikhail Alyoshin. He goes onto the soft version of Club, the historic circuit. Has he got a puncture?
I don't know. I thought he did make contact with the barrier. I'm not sure, but certainly the car isn't looking very comfortable.
Sort of hopped a little bit. He's back up and running, but it's not looking good. The good news is he kept it off the wall pretty much. He's still circulating, so we don't have to have a stoppage. Dennis Olsen then pressing on. This is the one to watch, but remember, this is going to be in that second group, and now the Aston Martin has stopped. Is that a Club? I want to say that's the outside of Club Corner.
And so again, now is there something on the racetrack? Why are two cars going very wide on the exit for the first part of Club, as Dennis Olsen pounds on, waiting to see his second fastest overall this season. He's the quickest car of anybody on track right now. But he's got 3-4 cars ahead of him, one of which is going to certainly come into play. Down into Brooklands. But why are so many drivers making so many, you might say, very basic and fundamental errors?
Good question. Dennis Olsen, who won here last year in Porsche Super Cup, goes well at Silverstone. And this car, which will be in that second group on the grid because it didn't do a Q1 time, is about to offer up the benchmark time here. Up towards the line he will come there now. And Dennis Olsen, when he breaks the beam, does a 1:59.689. Look at that, purple sectors all the way through. Perfect.
Excellent. And that time is, well, it's just over half a second slower than we saw from the Lamborghini. But the track is proving to be a real handful for many of these drivers, getting caught out particularly on their either their out lap or their first flying lap.
So 159.114 is the best out of Q1, a 159.177 is the best out of Q2, and at the moment pole position is to the number 12 Lamborghini, which currently has Dean Stoneman at the wheel of it, because that's the average, and it's a very weird average.
Well, we're waiting to see what happens to the 63. It doesn't take too much thought that Christian Engelhardt in that 63 Lamborghini, who is, I'm just going to say, has he gone out? His time he's about, no, he hasn't yet gone out.
Well, there is another car that's got to be on its toes here to try and haul itself to the top of that second group, and it is Lukas Stolz in the Black Falcon Mercedes. Winner at Brands Hatch last weekend, and the car looking good as it heads up now towards the Beckett's S. He's won the second race in the Blancpain GT World Challenge Europe last week at Brands.
With the Mercedes, you can see that the car, it's a slightly more compliant chassis than some of the others, and therefore it's a little bit more, I suppose, user-friendly to the driver. You can lean on it with a bit more confidence earlier on in the stint. Lukas Stolz comes down hanger straight. So we've still got, overall, it's the number 63 Lamborghini that is between Bortolotti and Christian Engelhardt that's topping the times.
There is 88 then, so for this session, the Mercedes has the British driver Michael Meadows behind the wheel. Inevitably, two personal bests, but it's where it slots in within this session. Lukas Stolz is the fastest now, 159.083. Matt Parry has gone second, and Michael Meadows goes over the line and does a time which is a 2 minutes 0.055. That's 8th in Q2.
I mean, I don't know what to say. It is the most topsy-turvy qualifying session I think I've ever been involved with in Blancpain racing.
I mean, we had a weird one last week, didn't we, with one dry lap and then the rain came?
Yes.
But this is another sort of weird.
I mean, you got, what would you say, perfect weather, perfect track conditions, but clearly the track conditions are still marginal enough to catch out some people.
Yeah.
Those two red flags in the first qualifying session, that Parry in with the Aston Martin, that's going to be rotated and pushed into the garage, one would assume, putting the dollies under the car. So has anything been, have they had a time or not? 62. Way down in 33rd position. That's a huge disappointment for our motorsport areas. Christian Engelhardt, the car that is currently in this second session plus the combined first session time, the quickest of the batch.
Yeah, he's gone 4th in Q2, but keeping pole on the aggregate. So into Woodcote comes Christian Engelhardt and goes over the timing line. That lap that he has just done is not an improvement, but he is still at the top of the times on the average. It works well, this average, and it does give a good grid, and it also stops people starting out of position, so slower drivers starting at the front with a time set by their co-drivers makes it a bit safer.
Yeah, I mean, my bone of contention in the past has been that you have a pro driver in a pro-am car. Pro driver sets the time, then the AM gets to take the start, maybe from pole position. Another car, or the picture's frozen off the car. What we've got now is a much better and a lot more exciting qualifying format. Exciting maybe for us, but not necessarily for those that didn't get a time in that first qualifying session.
Right, Dennis Lind you're on board with. This is always something to savour. The Super Trofeo champion, the Lamborghini World final winner, going back to, 2016. And he comes out of Club Corner. He was an absolute hero at Monza, unquestionably. What can Dennis the Menace do now as he comes up through Abbey?
Yes, on the tail of the Aston. He will want to clear the Aston as quickly as possible, whether he's going to think it's possible or not. Takes the alternative route, the long way around coming into Village, but he's looking to go up there. He's forced the issue, forced the Aston Martin out to the right, so he's made that pass, he's got through. He will have lost a certain amount of the momentum in the process, but nevertheless managed to clear the Aston Martin pretty quickly, the garage 59. So no greens for Dennis Lind, no purple for Dennis Lind. All he's achieved is a bit of clear air directly ahead of him. He's backed out of it slightly to enable that clear air to extend, to give him a better opportunity. 5 minutes of the session remaining. And I mean, where's the time gone?
Flies by, doesn't it? And we've got a lap time cancel for the 54 Porsche. for track limit abuse. That's Cox Corner, and there 563 hustles through.
But Dennis then took a chunk of the curbing coming through Woodcote, really had the two wheels over it, well and truly. Normally, there's no need to do that because it's an easy flat curve. Go back to the Honda, down into Brooklands.
That car is 15th on the aggregate at the moment, which is pretty good.
Very handy indeed.
Makes a great noise. And Philip Frommenweiler, who has raced here in the past in Formula Palmer Audi Porsche Super Cup as well, comes over the line. 17th in Q2, and the Honda 15th, as I say, on the aggregate.
Just watching the way that the Honda enters into Copse, able to get the nose in and not have any sort of edginess. The car isn't an edgy car. It's a car that is giving the driver confidence. It's a car that's enabling him to turn the wheel with confidence, open the throttle with confidence. There's two fundamentals. Keep banging on about it, but if you can't do it, then we've seen that consequence in Q1, where two drivers, particularly up at Beckett's, managed to not have that confidence and consequently end up in the gravel.
Frommenweiler out of Stowe, down through Vale. And I mentioned number 54 Porsche had a lap time cancelled for track limits. It's had 2 lap times cancelled for track limits at turn 10. Turn 10 is Club Corner.
Yeah, I mean, everybody tends to try and make that 2-part Club Corner one big arc, but if you get too far out off the racetrack between the two effective apexes, there's a problem. You just noticed Frommenweiler coming through. Abbey got caught up slightly in the back end, just sort of released, and he had to make a correction. So on the exit of Club Corner, we see time and again drivers either in the middle part or the exit getting all 4 wheels off the racetrack, over the curbing, over what might be either the painted concrete or the AstroTurf. Again, a lot of track abuse is seen on the exit of Aintree, but there seems to be allowing them more latitude there than maybe at Club Corner.
So there is Frommenweiler down through Brooklands, up now towards the right of Luffield. This car, which is now 16th on the aggregate, we heard a bit more of a shuffle, but it remains number 63, topping the combined times, with now Christian Engelhardt behind the wheel.
The 107 Bentley on combined times is on the 2nd row of the grid in 4th place. And the sister cars on the 6th row of the grid currently in 11th place. So a lot of work done by Bentley over Friday and Saturday, and they're getting some reward for that, which certainly the 107 starting on the 2nd row of the grid, and that's where it will ultimately start, is a good performance.
Timur Boguslavski from the Silver Cup for ACA ASP booms past the pits. This car is 8th currently on the aggregate, stays 8th as it goes over the timing line now. So 1:59.083 is the best of this session and the best of the day, Lukas Stoltz. The Mercedes quicker than Mirko Bortolotti's Lamborghini, but of course it would have been heavier then, right at the start of the session. Fuel loads coming down all the time.
The 108 Bentley currently in 11th, still in 11th position, so coming through the loop. Get it in, keep it neat and tidy. Andy Soucek, he knows precisely what he has to do then. That little curve of Aintree, which is really nothing more than just point the car and keep the throttle fully open. Got clear track, so we don't. What were his? Let me just see where his sector times. Nothing startling. No, you can see there +3.2, +3. So it's just under a minute remaining. He's going to get. I was going to say he's got 1 more lap available to him, but they've opted to bail out. And Malcolm Wilson speaking to Stephen Kane. Jules Gugnon getting prepared for his run. Stephen having done a good job. That car in provisional 4th position.
Alex Buncombe listening in as well. Those are faces of concern, I would say. Well, it's not a relaxed garage.
No, I mean, Stephen Kane did a strong run to get that car on the 2nd row of the grid, but it may not have been a comfortable run. As I know Stephen was talking to him yesterday, that he was saying that there's still work in progress to try and get the car. It is different in some setup areas to how the car was when it first appeared last year.
This is Andrei Lewandowski, who's been a very, very quick AM within the Lamborghini Super Trofeo Europe for the last few seasons, now moving up to Blancpain GT Series. He's in the AM Cup, as you saw, and that Ferrari heading down to take the checkered flag. Some take the flag on the track, others bail on that in-lap because they can save themselves another couple of minutes in the break between sessions. So if you're not going to improve, and you can see that on the dash on the information display, there's no real point taking the flag on the circuit.
And another consideration that teams have to make is if there is no improvement coming, certainly by the time they get to the exit of the second sector, rather than finishing that lap and doing another lap and then having to come in, you're saving your tyres. I mean, the tyre allocation is restricted, so you want to keep the tyres that you have available for the race. Even if you're going to save 2 laps and 1 set of tyres, it might just give you the small benefit at a critical part.
So Luca Stolz, 1 minute 59.083, quicker than the 59.114 that Mirko Bortolotti did in the first part of qualifying. But because the Mercedes number 4 did not do a Q1 time, it will have to go in that second group of 2 driver and 2 time cars at the rear of the grid. So you're looking at something like at best 36, aren't you? If not worse.
What a nightmare.
Absolutely.
I mean, unbelievable. I bet you when everybody got up this morning and rocked up and said, gorgeous hair, Silverstone, beautiful, we feel good, we're going to have a good weekend, to have that kind of scenario played out.
Now, it is still number 63 Lamborghini that tops the times, and Mirko Bortolotti did the best time in Q1. He's with our reporter, Dakota Jane.
Mirko, a great lap from you and Christian both. Now it's Rolf's turn, he's in the car. Do you have your full faith in him?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so far it's been great. We're leading. First lap was mega. I mean, it's a 1 lap qualifying, basically, because the tire drop is so big on this track, on this weekend. So it's just 1 lap. And yeah, if you make it stick and everything works out, you can really make the difference. I had a really, really good lap, so I'm really happy. But as we know, it's the sum of all 3 qualifying. So at the moment, it's looking good. But it's still 1 quali to go, and we have full trust in Rolf. I think he can do a good job as well, and then we'll see where we end up.
I know it's a 3-hour race, but starting on pole is always nice, isn't it?
Yeah, but we are not on pole yet, so let's wait another 15 minutes and then we see where we start.
Let's see. Thank you.
Erring on the side of caution, Mirko Bortolotti, but on aggregate, the average is a margin of 0.7 of a second. That's what they have in hand at the moment. Rolf Eichen is quick, but he's not as quick as the other 2, but he's a quick AM. Now, if you take Q2 in isolation, these are the times, and it is Luca Stolz then from Matt Parry, the margin being 94 thousandths. Remember, this is not the grid, this is purely that last 15 minutes in isolation. Jake Dennis going 3rd, 4th quickest Christian Engelhardt, ahead of Dennis Olsen's Porsche. Peter Schrothorst 6th, Dennis Lynn 7th, ahead of Stephen Kane, then Sven Muller, 9th quickest for Porsche, Michael Meadows Mercedes 10th, ahead of Giovanni Venturini, Dev Gore, the next driver for Stracker, in fact, through to be 12th fastest. Keep going, where do you find 108 down in 18th, Andy Soucek. And the number 2 Audi that Dries Van Poel was doing good things with in Q1 ends up 19th in Q2, thanks to Ezequiel Perez Compact. He's just ahead of Dean Stoneman. Keep going down, where do we find some of the others from the Silver Cup? Jordan Witt, 27th. Nick Foster, 29th. That car didn't get a time in Q1, remember, because it was in the gravel when Clemens Schmidt put it off the road. Number 72, after its problems at the very start of that session, ending up 31st, so we've not seen the best out of that car yet. It's 13th on aggregate, but that was a big moment for Mikhail Alyoshin. He's ahead of Jonathan Hui, the Chinese driver, and he in turn is ahead of Louis Machiels. The Parker Racing Bentley, 36th, Rob Smith just did the time. Ben Goethe, 38th, keeping out of trouble after a few spins yesterday. And at the very foot of the times, number 15, Claude-Yves Gosselin in the Boutsen-Gignon BMW. So that's how we look then after Q2, and everybody now is ready to go. The fast lane is open, so if you want to go down and queue at the end of the pit lane, you can.
1 car in this whole group of 48 cars I want to keep an eye on is the number 9 BMW, the Boutsen-Gignon car, but with Philippe Eng stepping in to replace an Philippe Stevenet. So Philippe Eng hasn't driven this car here this weekend. He's going to be jumping in to qualify it. You know, that's a big ask for any professional racing driver, but he knows the car, I would have to say, not this particular entrant, but he knows the car over 2 seasons extremely well. Philippe Eng, the car is currently 35th. I wonder what he can do.
It is going to be very interesting indeed, because we know his track record in BMW GT cars and also in Porsche racing, Carrera Cup and Super Cup champion Philippe Eng. So we get ready for Q3. The car is 35th on aggregate as well at the moment. Rostan and Carrie Moget have done it, changes classes as well for today, because it was an AM Cup car and is now in Pro-Am because of this driver change. But we'll see how Philippe Eng gets on. So the fast lane is open. There's number 99 Porsche set to go. Dirk Werner, it will be behind the wheel. Dirk Werner, we know he's good. He's been a GT as well as a DTM racer. And I'll come back to the point I made at the start of qualifying. Rover Racing, with 6 factory drivers, or factory drivers and factory-blessed juniors, lacks nothing. Lewis Williamson at Straka, another quick driver, single-seater racer as well as now a GT gun. And just composing his thoughts before he gets out onto the circuit.
Well, I think everybody's been sort of put on their heels by what occurred in Q1. And the reality is, you can't afford to sit back and wait. You're really being forced to go out and do a time at the earliest opportunity in the event that there could be a further red flag and the track being shut down till that car will be returned. So nobody can afford to sit out now any longer. The days of thinking, oh, well, 5 minutes to go, brand new set of tyres, Mirko Porter already summed it up. It's a one-lap wonder with a brand new set of tyres to get a time. You've just got to be on your toes and prepared to go out. There is the BMW number 9, Philippe Eng, behind the wheel. So
the story is that yesterday, at the start of free practice, Philippe Steveny had a big spin coming through Beckett's, subsequent to which he's a bit under the weather. So at the end of yesterday, he asked if he could stand down, and the team said, well, yeah, that's fine. If you're not well, you're not well, but we need to find a driver. So a few frantic phone calls came. Philippe Eng was available, and therefore he got a flight late yesterday. The stewards approved the driver change, so Philippe Eng turned up at the circuit this morning, brought his helmet and his overalls to be checked, did all the paperwork and thrown into the car. So he's not yet driven that car round Silverstone. He's a pro driver, so in theory it won't matter that much, but he's only got just at most 15 minutes of driving before the race.
You know, professional drivers, if you say, I said it earlier, if you give them an hour, they'll use it. If you give them 5 minutes, they'll end up probably with a 99% of what they would have done over 1 hour. So that's why I'm saying I want to watch Philippe Eng in this car, the number 9 BMW, to see basically what lap time he can deliver in a 15-minute session, having never actually sat in this particular car, never driven this particular car, familiar with BMWs for many seasons, as we pointed out. But, you know, a driver of his skill, a quality, he's capable of dragging a performance that will be the potential, full potential of that M6 BMW.
So the teams are ready, new tyres going on. And then for car number 5, it's going to be Finlay Hutchison to do the last stint. So the green light is on, the fast lane is open, and the session is live. There's the green flag. Everybody goes pouring out onto the circuit in this glorious Silverstone sunshine. And this has a lot more urgency about it than the start of Q2.
Very much on, again, a different. If you didn't get your time in that first session, I would have thought you want to get out as early as possible. The 108, Bentley still up on the jacks, having wheels and tyres changed. So that car not yet anywhere near prepared. Maxime Soulet should be the driver in the car for this third session. Looking at the Aston Martin. Charlie Eastwood, it's coming down off the stands as one of the our Motorsport Astons also. Different sound, of course. These are V8 twin turbo motors rather than the glorious sounding Aston Martin V12, which is now going to be consigned to, I think it's the Valkyrie, the Aston Martin supercar, but it's also going to be turbocharged. Porsche way, very wide, coming out. The second of the Rover Racing Porsches coming out of club. As we go watching the 15 Lamborghini through Abbey, as the two Bentleys are more or less about to go out in unison. Yes, they are. They don't want to be tripping over one another, but at the same time, they can't afford to sit back and wait too long. They just have to get out, get a lap, consolidate, and then if they can improve, then go and do that again. Andy Mitchell of Barwell Motorsport, Lamborghini.
And he's another very, very quick young driver, the young Scotsman, who really shone at Monza. He was very good in the BRDC Formula 4 single-seater championship a few seasons back. Limited budget, but lots of ability. Where have we heard that before?
Well, it's a strange thing that outstanding talent doesn't always have the funding to go with it. There's only a few exceptions that have able to combine both qualities. You can see the Lamborghini using loads of curb coming into the first part of Beckett's car. Looks, compared to some of the, principally the Audi, which is sharing a very similar mechanics and platform, not maybe quite so user-friendly driver, comfortable. Nevertheless, you set the cars up. Sandy Mitchell sets fastest sector in sector 1.
So 78 Lamborghini we're looking at. Got involved, if you remember, early on in the Monza race. James Paul tagged the back of Dennis Lynn, which is why Dennis briefly went off the road. But it's a quick car, this good combination of drivers. It's run by Mark Lemmer's Barwell Motorsport team, which won the AM Cup at Monza as well. Sandy Mitchell using just enough of the road that's permissible coming out of Club Corner and setting the target time within the first sector. A flash of the lights there at the Audi ahead of Alex Riveras.
Yeah, there's the number 2 Audi just going through that process of probably on your out lap, just trying to get tire temperature, not retain tire temperature, build it up before you then start with just 11.5 minutes of the session remaining. So Sandy Mitchell yet again fastest in that first sector. Fastest overall sector, so good run, but look at the traffic ahead. So he's going to have to thread his way through this and hopefully get some cooperation. Everybody's been very good. In fact, Sandy Mitchell's done extremely well to get through the traffic with a fair amount of help from others now. The 63 Lamborghini and Ralph Van Eyck has just about destroyed all the work because he's building to start his flying lap. It's the inevitable. Sandy Mitchell is not going to really get past, I would imagine, on the run down to the Cox, because Ralph Van Eyck is not going to want that following Lamborghini to interfere with his first flying lap.
Well, he's just done a 59.8, Sandy Mitchell, and on average, that's put the car onto pole position. Wow. So, I know it was spoiled a bit by Rolf Eichen, but it was a very good lap by young Sandy.
Absolutely. I mean, it certainly would have been a couple of tenths quicker because he was compromised in Luffield and on the exit.
10th for car was, now fastest, but it's all going to change again and again and again as everybody comes pouring through. But within this very important third 15-minute period, we've had the first third of the final third. So 5 minutes of the 15 have got Mathieu Bruni here, looking good in the sectors. Dirk Werner has just gone fastest in Q3, but remember that car's going to be way back on the grid anyway, having not done a proper lap time earlier on.
Yeah, 1:59.7. Good lap, but still 0.6 of a second away from the very best we saw from the 63 Lamborghini in Q1.
Right, Mathieu Drudi over the timing line and goes fastest then, so that's a 1:59.502. That's pole position overall. That's on aggregate the pole position time done now. The average is a 1:59.887. Mathieu Drudi goes quickest. On board with 62 Aston Martin here, down to Cops.
Yep, so Maxime Martin, one of the stars of GT racing over many years, and clearly in Belgium, when he goes there for the Spa 24, will be one of the heroes of that event. But again, that was a good lap. Well, Charlie Eastwood's now gone quickest in sector in this session, 1:59.4. The 97 Aston Martin, where that's dragged that car up to the third row of the grid on provisional 6th position.
So Jules Goulon through up towards the timing line. Nicky Thiem is currently fastest from Jelmer Burma. We're into the 58s now. Nicky Thiem a 1:58.890. Second is Jules Goulon. So that lap time that he has just done goes third on aggregate, and back to the top of the times. Rolf Eichen's lap has put number 63. So 63 Lamborghini, quickest on aggregate from 55 Audi. 5:19 from Pereira Lamborghini third, 5:63 Marco Mappelli fourth, fifth now 1:07 Jules Goulon.
I suppose it was no big surprise that the 63 Lamborghini would maintain its provisional pole. Such was the gap between not Jelmer Berman, but Marco Bortolotti. He had 0.7 of a second in hand at the end of Q1. So that's a big lump of time for any of the principal challengers to try and eclipse.
Number 63, which is Rolf Eichen. Interesting that he's put into do Q3.
ordinarily we assume that he would be number 2 driver in, and then Christian Engelhardt would do the final sector. They were doing sufficiently well, but what is impressive, and looking down Nicky Team in the 76 Aston Martin, that was a strong run, the first car to get into the 1:58 over the last 4 days here at Silverstone. Watching Philippe Eng coming past us here at start-finish line in the number 9 BMW. And you see if he has set at the time, well, that was just the beginning of a flying lap.
21st he is in the session. Philippe Eng 21st fastest and 32nd the car on average.
Yeah, considering he's never ever driven that car until he got here this morning, so 2:00.1. Pretty impressive.
He'll only get quicker.
Pretty impressive. I mean, why am I surprised? But it's a strong run indeed. Well, and Ivan comes across the line yet again. What's his lap time? 2:00.4, so just basically as a consolidation lap for the 63 Lamborghini.
So there, Christian Engelhardt, Marco Bortolotti look on, standing behind the Grata Racing Team engineers. 6.5 minutes still to go. Number 2 here, which Alex Riberas has been offending a few people by getting in the way, trying to find clear track space. Now he has found a clear bit of road, and he comes into Woodcote Corner, and he's on the money, John.
Yes, it's 23rd currently. Let's see. Oh, and I'm just going to cut back to there. That is not going to help your effort. That was a lap earlier. So doing that on the exit of Luffield is not ideal. Again, running is way, very wide on the exit of Cop. So Alex Riberas is under pressure, and he's responding to that pressure, and he's simply overdriving.
Just go back briefly to Q1. Remember, we had the second red flag and the session wasn't resumed, and you and I were saying, as you see a sideways Riberas, that had you been at the front of the queue, you would have just had time to get round. Well, one or two of the teams have been saying we could have had a chance at a lap time if we'd have been on our toes. Why wasn't the session resumed? The answer from the race director is not everybody would have had that opportunity. So to be fair to everybody, we didn't restart it. Otherwise, you'd have helped half a dozen teams and not the others. So to try to be fair to everybody, that's why they didn't restart for 2 minutes and change.
I can see the logic. I mean, for those that were at the front and those that felt they could have gotten around under 2 minutes 13 would feel that we could have made an improvement that would have affected our overall grid position. But I think it's a very fair point that it would only apply to those that at the very, very front of the pit lane exits that would have had that opportunity, and those that are at the beginning of the pit lane exit had no chance of doing it if they had even wished to.
Indeed, so that's the answer, in case you were wondering. That's why it didn't restart. 5 minutes to go. You're looking at Marco Mappelli here, who is currently 5th on the grid on the average and 3rd in the session. Nicky Team the fastest, and he's in the pit lane.
I know we're saying that the 63 Lamborghini is provisionally on pole and it's a comfortable, but it's actually only just under a 2/10 of a second from the 55 Audi.
It's interesting, isn't it? This balance of performance change. It's only 10 kilos lighter, the Audi, but it seems to have made a big difference today.
I think what's making the difference is the fact that they're running on either very fresh or brand new tyres. The grip that they get from that tyre will mask some of the other issues that they may have been having to contend with when they're running on much older rubber. So the tyre is the bandage that's always been available to any team that's got a problem or haven't got a car balance setup that they want. Throw a new set of tyres at it, you will get the time.
Number 2 Audi through, 6th on average now on the aggregates, and that means Alex Riberas then, although he's only 24th in this session, which doesn't suggest great pace, he has got the car up the order on the average. Davide Rigon now, number 72. This car is 10th on the grid provisionally on the average.
Davide Rigon is the quickest, in my view, of the 3 drivers in the 72 Ferrari. But personal best in first sector, but 8/10 down in that second sector, comes through Luffield and comes across. He will be looking for an improvement, but I doubt there's very much. It's in 10th position. Are they going to make? Still stays in 10th position.
So through Cops Corner he goes. 3.5 minutes on the clock. He'll get 2 more laps out of this if he wishes to take them.
Didn't look like he was committed.
No.
Coming through Cops there. So whether somebody's been kicking up the dust up at Beckett's.
It's a fabulous part of the circuit, that Beckett's SE sweep, isn't it? Here's your answer to who kicked up dust. That's
another spinner indeed up at same part. We've seen 2 cars go off there. Now, able to rally across his way through the gravel. get back onto the racetrack, so that precludes having another possible red flag. Bumps and bounces. The good news is most of the gravel that he would have scooped up in the nose intake, the air intakes, should have been deposited in the grass rather than back on the racetrack.
That was Florian Scholzer having the spin. Scholzer the waltzer, rotating at Beckett, but he gets back on 2.5 minutes ago.
Yeah, it's such a quick entry. It's not a part of the racetrack you do want to spin, because you're carrying over 100 miles an hour on the entry, maybe 110 miles an hour, and you lose a car at that speed, it doesn't slow down very quickly.
The newly re-liveried gold-wrapped Lamborghini number 15 goes through over Renault Coupons. That racing after a long break. 108 goes through there. That's Maxime Soulet, 12th on aggregate, and a long way down within the session itself. 33rd fastest, this Bentley. What the?
Yeah, there's something not happening. I mean, we saw the 108 was certainly up on its axle stands for a very long period in the second of the sessions on Saturday afternoon. Maxime Soulet, we know here at Silverstone in particular, is mega. But if he hasn't got the car with him or underneath him, then those times are not going to be available. Sister car much better off still provisionally on that second row and fourth position, with Jules Gounon behind the wheel of that car.
But in pure pace, he's only 11th, and the best lap time that he's done is nearly 9/10 away from the top time in the session. So the Bentleys are perhaps being masked on their grid position. In terms of pure pace, neither of them looking sparkling at the M Sport cars. This.
No, in terms of out-and-out pace, they're not delivering that out-and-out speed. But as you say, it's the combined of 3 laps. Maxime Soulet takes the very, very late apex at the exit of Brooklands to get the car more and more straightened up to get into Luffield. So this lap is not going to be a lap that's going to have any bearing, but the lap he's going on to now, and he's got, in relative terms, he's got a clear pit straight. So now Maxime Soulet's got 1 lap remaining before checkered flag comes out, to see if they can elevate the 108 Bentley up the grid, up from provisional 6th row of the grid, and maybe try and join the sister car 2nd, 3rd row.
So let's see. Beckett's S's. Mind you, the celebrations have started, haven't they, at Grasser? Rolf Icon there, nearest the camera. Mirko Bortolotti is very happy indeed for 0.196 of a second. They think the job's done.
Yeah, I think the job is done. I think that they're very happy with that time indeed. So, couldn't have been better. Could not have been better, and it just illustrates the value that Grasser Racing, by putting Mirko Bortolotti out pretty early in Q1, got that time in. He said 1 lap on a new set of tyres. If you don't get it done, then you will struggle for the remaining laps. He got it done, and that's what that's the cushion they've been using it all the way through these following 2 qualifying sessions.
So the flag is out. Maxime Soulet down in the first sector. So he's trying, and he's got the road to himself, but the pace is just not there.
Certainly the 108 is not delivering the pace that the sister car has done. So Maxime Soulet on the brakes. Into village, just, you know, be patient, don't try and overdrive the car. These 2 slow corners can harm you more than you gain by any overdriving, but you can run the curb and the exit coming out of the loop, and then through Aintree, just release the car, let it find its own natural exit down into the braking zone. You're able to brake quite a lot later than you might assume, because the apex is so late in Brooklands that you're using the corner part to slow you down, not just simply having to use the brakes. And well, a disappointing run, I suspect, for the Belgian in the Bentley. Look how much he's off the circuit on the inside coming into Woodcote.
Did it help him, is the question?
No. No, and there are other issues.
Yeah.
If he'd taken 20 feet at the inside of Woodcote, if he could have been on the inside of the pit lane, well, there wouldn't have been any difference whatsoever.
Well, it's provisional pole for Mirko Bortolotti, Christian Engelhardt and Rolf Icon. We can hear from them with Dakota.
Well done, boys, and massive congratulations, all 3 of you. 3 good times makes you guys on pole. Happy, Christian?
Yeah, very happy. It was a turbulent qualifying, with especially in Q1 with the red flags and everything, and yeah, two really good qualifyings. Mirko, a massive lap in Q1. Then I had a really good one, also a good spot, no traffic at all on the first lap. So really, really happy about that. And then Rolf had the most difficult job because he had to do a solid lap, and he had a bad spot with traffic and had to finish the lap somehow, which he did. So really happy about the whole team job today.
Rolf, you're happy with your lap even though the traffic?
Well, I'm really happy about the result. I knew that I have to do a solid lap, and I came out onto the straight. It was okay, good spot, everything good. Then I turned in first corner and I saw a car coming out of the pit lane. I was like, fuck, this is not a good sign. And yeah, so he blocked me then in the mid sector, and I tried to finish the lap and do just a solid job.
Just to excuse Rolf's language, it all gets a bit colourful down here, doesn't it? Mirko, I can finally say you are starting on pole.
Yes, it's amazing. I mean, after pole in Monza, to come to the second endurance race and start on pole again, it's a massive job from all of us. From really proud of the team, really proud of my teammates Christian and Rolf. They did a mega job again, and yeah, it's the best spot to start the race. But we've seen in Monza that the pole didn't give us a benefit, because at the end of the race you have to be there, and we need to make it better and hope we don't have any technical issues this time, and we can have a clean race. So now we focus on the race, but we celebrate a little bit the pole, and but the goal is definitely to be on top of the race, on the end of the race as well.
Congratulations, guys. Let's see how the race goes.
So, despite traffic getting in Rolf Eijken's way, it is pole position on that combined average by 0.196 of a second. So this is how we look for the grid, and it will be Mirko Bortolotti, I imagine, who will start. That's the tradition. But he, Christian Engelhardt and Rolf Eijken top the times. But a very good, solid effort. And I know that the grid is jumbled because of the dramas in Q1, but for Stein and Peter Skochels and Matteo Drudi to be up second, that's a good effort in the best of the Audis. Phil Keane, Giovanni Venturini and Franck Pereira third. The best Bentley fourth, Jordan Pepper, Stephen Kane and Jules Gounon. Andrea Caldarelli, Dennis Lynn, Marco Mappelli fifth, ahead of Dries Van Thor, Ezequiel Perez Companc and Alex Riberas to round out the top six. But then you start to go down the grid and you find all the hard luck stories and all the teams that perhaps you expected more from. Stuart Hall doing a good job, in fact, to get the Gulf liveried Porsche to 19th on the aggregate. 77, which is 21st, that's the leading AM Cup car, so that's a very, very good effort. The Team Parker Racing Bentley 23rd, Chris's Froggatt and Buncombe with Jonathan Hui 24th, that's another of the Pro-Am contingent. But what we're interested in is where you get the second grid, and really it comes from 37th, because that's where you get to the teams that only got 2 lap times in. So Stoltz, Engel, Berman start 37th. Look who's behind them. Rover Porsches. Then Marciello and Meadows go from 40th with Vincent Abril. Keep going down. And you get to number 66 Audi. Clement Schmidt having put it in the gravel earlier on. And at the very rear of the grid is going to be number 10 from the Belgian Audi Club Team WRT. But the Monza winning Porsche starts 46th. A win today, John, is going to be, well, a miracle.
Well, I don't know what to say, because, well, you can win from the back. You can win from the back, but a 3-hour race is not going to be, in my view, long enough. 24-hour race, maybe something like Paul Ricard, 6 hours possible, with interventions, safety car interventions. But if it's a clean race, then prospects are not looking good.
Just looking at the highlights, with Audis plunging into the gravel in the first part of qualifying. Number 10 was in strife, as we had seen in Q2, with a big lock-up going towards the end of the Hanger Straight, and then another one down at the end of Vale. But ultimately, it was a Lamborghini benefit in qualifying, because as the drivers set off for Q3, it was Mirko Bortolotti, Christian Engelhardt and Rolf Eijken who, on the average, topped the times. Race starts at 3 o'clock here at Silverstone. We'll see you then. Bye for now.